Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And of course, this week was engulfed with the presidential election, let's just say. But we here at the Pulse, Josh, can you believe that? The Pulse?
Well, I've always said you're not the best host, and you just confirmed it.
But we here at the Pulse are not going to dive right into that, even though a couple of minutes ago, most major media networks are saying that Joe Biden is the president-elect of the country, becoming our 46th president. So an early congratulations to him, and a huge thank you to President Trump for 4 years of service. But, Josh, would you like to add anything?
That was actually very nice of you. I'm surprised.
Thank you, even though you just made fun of me with my little
You don't act like
English
this to
language.
me in person when the camera's not on, but it's very nice for your public persona.
Exactly. And joining us, of course, is Josh Sotomayor Einstein, and we're going to do what we do best here on the Pulse during our political segment, and that's talk, discuss, hammer the Hoboken city government.
Rip on,
Rip
destroy.
on. I like that. Rip on. And
Take a dump on.
Exactly. And there's plenty of things to rip on regarding the city council. And why don't we start with news that broke a few weeks ago, and that is this midnight curfew that the Ball administration introduced regarding bars and restaurants only, correct? So if I'm a pizzeria or a convenience store, I'm allowed to stay open to the regular times, but bar restaurants have to close at midnight. Good idea by the city?
A dumb idea, and so dumb that none of their fellow Democrat mayors in Hudson County has followed suit, because as Mayor Fulop said, and you got to give credit where credit is due. Everyone that watches knows I'm a conservative Republican, but you got to give credit where credit is due. And Mayor Fulop, when he was asked if he would institute a 12 a.m. curfew for bars and restaurants, said something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing here, that COVID isn't just nocturnal. It isn't just at nighttime. So it's really unfair to the bars and restaurants in Hoboken, because the people that would choose to go out, the people that aren't comfortable going out because of COVID, no one's holding a gun to their head. They're still staying home. But the people that choose to go out and socially distanced dining or socially distanced drinking, they'll just go to Jersey City or Weehawken or
Correct.
Union City for their drinks, or God forbid a house party with ventilation that's not as good as at a bar or restaurant. And so what they're really doing is they're really just, bending over once again Hoboken businesses, which seems to be a favorite pastime of the Bala administration and its allies on the council. They love saying publicly, we're for the businesses, and every opportunity they have that's not necessary, they just ream the businesses one more time.
And by the way, speaking of reaping businesses, how disgraceful is the Hoboken Business Alliance? I mean, this was a group that was supposed to be there to help businesses, but we've spoke about them over and over again on the show of basically stealing from businesses. And they basically came out with a comment, and I'm going to have you share that comment in a few seconds here. But they also came out with a Christmas tree in the middle of 11th Street, which looks crappy like everything else that the Business Alliance has done. And also these wreaths around the poles. And mind you, 1 or 2 poles in the city of Hoboken. They're just becoming more and more disgraceful. Right or wrong?
Well, this Jew right here loves Christmas celebrations, and I definitely want my Christian friends out there to know I support however early you decide to put up a Christmas tree. You keep it all year round, wear your crosses, be proud of your beliefs, no doubt. Mad props to you out there. But when it comes to stealing from Peter to pay Paul to put up a Christmas tree, it's just kind of ridiculous. And most of the decorations that's what they are, they're decorations that the Hoboken Business Alliance has paid for is things that in the past the city would pay for. Now they get to pretend that, oh, well, it's not coming from our budget, it's them. But either way, it's coming from everyone's pocket. So it's coming from the taxpayer. Just going back a second to the persistent and constant dump that the Ball administration likes to take on businesses, it's not so much the businesses. Everyone has this perception of business owners as being, rich members of the elite, and maybe some are, maybe some aren't. But it's really the hourly employees that are getting bent over here, because it's not because their manager cut their hours, it's because Bala cut their hours. And for the working person, whether it's the taxpayer in Hoboken that's getting taxed to death, or the employee that's working in a bar or restaurant, this administration, this city council, even some of the people that I like on the city council, have just done insult after insult and injury after injury.
But this is important. The Business Alliance is supposed to be there to protect the interests of small business who they've been stealing from. What was their response to the midnight curfew, which in fact hurts businesses?
But they rolled over and they took it.
Correct.
It's the same way the Chamber of Commerce years ago, never stood up to anyone in City Hall, and now the Business Alliance is following their lead of just being the good little dog, wagging its tail and being happy with the little treat, when the reality is they need to stand up and be a lion and stand up for all the employees that are getting their hours artificially cut. Not because of economic supply and demand, not because their manager just says, hey, we don't have the hours for you, but because Bala says we don't care about you earning a living wage.
So Business Alliance, at the end of the day, again, you're failing miserably. Give up. Anyway, another piece of news came out of the Hoboken City Council meeting earlier this week, and that was about protected bike lanes. I thought this was dead when they decided to do the Washington Street project. And then Councilman Cohen, along with Councilwoman Jabor, decided to bring this resolution to do a study. And I'm putting this in quotes because studies cost money, and the city government doesn't have a lot of money right now because of COVID. And 6 of the council members, and shame on those 6 council members, voted for the measure to pay for a study to see if we can have protected bike lanes on Washington Street. Your thoughts, Josh?
So Councilman Phil Cohen, ever since the effort to destroy Washington Street with protected bike lanes failed, has been constantly beating the drums of the alternate history, where the hundreds of people that showed up at the council meetings to protest the destruction of Washington Street were just business owners, as if that means their argument was not solid. But the reality is that most of the people there were people from the community, residents, that didn't want to see this. And whether it's him or Councilwoman Jabor, who as a human being I like very much so, she's someone you can have a conversation with, they're just out of touch with the reality. And that's before COVID. And now after COVID, or during COVID times, we have streeteries. So
Correct.
What are you even studying? Right now, they've extended the time that the streeteries can be out there. So what's the point of doing this fakakta study where we're going to spend more money that we don't have after the council raised taxes on everybody, right?
Correct.
So they're like drunken sailors spending other people's money. They don't pay attention. They don't care. It's I want attitude. They don't know how to prioritize. We all have to prioritize in our daily lives, in our budget, with whatever we make it work, with whatever we want to buy. We don't get to buy everything that we want. But with these drunken sailors of city council people, they're just like, well, we're spending your money, so we might as well.
And we have to give credit where credit's due, and that's to Councilman Ramos, Councilwoman Falco, and especially Councilman Russo, who hammered the idea. At the end of the day, Josh is 100% correct, and he's not correct about many things.
False.
But he is 100% correct regarding the protected bike lanes on Washington Street, with street eateries, with, loading zones now. There's so many different aspects where these protected bike lanes will not work. And kudos to those council people.
Can you imagine if we had the protected bike lanes, COVID hit, and then we had these streeteries, and so while the server is bringing you your food at a place,
Exactly.
a bike just goes by. He has to step over a barrier, right? And then a bike just whizzes by and knocks them over. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And bike lanes don't belong on a main street in a town to begin with.
Yeah, and we spoke about this a few episodes ago, Josh, and that's the ongoing battle between the charter schools now and, again, the Hoboken District Schools regarding the pilot agreement. We don't have to go over the whole pilot agreement again. From 770 Jackson Street, I believe the address is. There was an update this week, so I don't know if you want to tell the viewers regarding that update.
Well, the council, again, passed on voting for it, I believe. And tensions were inflamed. There are certain people that for some reason hate the charter schools and have said this is not a gift, this is money that we're obligated, when they clearly don't understand what a pilot agreement is. And then there are people in the charter schools that say we are owed our fair share. The reality is this is municipal money that legally belongs to the municipality. If it wants to give it to the other two entities or some sorting out amongst the different schools, that is its legal prerogative. But either way, no one is entitled to this money legally, and you just have the same malactors with ill intent trying to gin up hatred against the charter schools for inexplicable reasons.
Exactly. Well, Josh Sotomayor Einstein, always good having you. Folks, we might have a new president. Again, congratulations to President-elect Joe Biden on his victory, but we know that Josh is not going anywhere. And if you follow him on social media, you will also know that not so much of a fan of the new president.
I'll actually be taking over the show. So next episode, you'll see me on the Einstein Hour.
Anyway, Josh, thank you for joining us. Folks, when we come back, our production assistant is going to be in our chair. That's Andy Hanania with a special guest. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be back. Peter Biancamano back with you. Make sure you watch us on cable access every Sunday and Monday at 9 a.m. Optimum Channel 18, FIOS Channel 46, and COMCAST Channel 190. And also, every Sunday, 9:30 a.m., we post our new episode and our segments, our individual segments, on our YouTube page. You're not going to want to miss it. Please subscribe to our channel there. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. I'm Andrew Hanania, and normally I'm on the other side of the camera as a production assistant, but today I'm in front of the camera, guest hosting with my friend Adam Reinheimer, fellow Seton Hall Pirate. Adam, thanks for being here. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get started.
Awesome. Ready to talk about some NFL action?
Of course, always.
All right, so we're halfway through the year. Let's begin with the NFC. Now, who do you think are some of the contenders out there in the NFC?
Well, for me, it all starts with the Seattle Seahawks. Their downside is their defense. You know, they allow 350 passing yards per game, which is awful, which means Russell Wilson would have to be pretty much superhuman every game. But the thing about Russell Wilson, he can do that. He leads the NFL in passer rating. He's a quarterback in his prime. And this year, he's got more weapons than he's accustomed to. He doesn't have just Tyler Lockett. He's got DK Metcalf this year, who's top 5 in receiving yards and looks like he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. The other team I look to is the Green Bay Packers. You know, they were 13-3 last year, and it almost seemed like they were overlooked. So Aaron Rodgers came in this year with a chip on his shoulder, and he leads the league in QBR. Devontae Adams looked like he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, and they have a better defense than Aaron Rodgers is accustomed to having. And then the other team, you have to include the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady, no quarterback should be that good at 43, and I know you have a lot of strong feelings on that.
Absolutely. As a as a Patriots fan and a former Tom Brady lover, I'm very used to everything that he's accustomed to, and I'm not surprised at all at the success that he's having. The funny thing about the Buccaneers is that we all knew they had an explosive offense. Last year with Jameis Winston as their quarterback, they were a terrific offense. But the thing is, he threw 30 interceptions, and that really took a toll on their defense. This year, Tom Brady's taking better care of the football, and that defense is playing a whole lot better. And they don't have as much of the field to cover now because Tom Brady isn't turning the ball over as much. And obviously, their offense just got a whole lot better with the addition of Antonio Brown. Now, his off-the-field stuff, frankly, is very worrying, but when he's on the field, he's definitely still one of the best receivers in the league. I know you have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorite receivers to watch. I think he's one of the all-time greats. And if you look at the past 6 seasons that he's played in full, 100 receptions every year, at least 1,200 yards, at least 8 touchdowns. And he's proven he could still do it last year. One game with Tom Brady on a limited snap count, he goes for 50 yards and a touchdown. These guys got great chemistry, and I'm actually going to start him in my fantasy lineup this week.
There you go, folks. So if you own Antonio Brown in your fantasy league, Adam says put him in. So now let's transition over to the AFC. And I don't know about you, but the way I see it, there are sort of 2 teams that are on the top right now, and that's the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And then after that, there's sort of a whole bunch of teams that are, you know, I'm not going to say that they don't have a chance, but I think that the stars would really have to align for them to make it to the Super Bowl. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kansas City has to be your favorite. If you look at them, Super Bowl last year, and they had a pretty easy path through the playoffs, and it looks like they actually got better. You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you had Le'Veon Bell, and that takes a lot of pressure off Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, of course, has been balling. 21 touchdowns to 1 interception. And it looks like the Chiefs are the clear favorites. But before you talk about the Steelers, I'm going to actually throw out the Tennessee Titans as a team I think has a good chance. If you look at the addition of Ryan Tannehill, he had one of the best passer ratings in a single season history last year. He came in this year, looked like an early MVP candidate. And of course, Derrick Henry has been better than ever. He averages over 100 rush yards per game, and he makes the Titans truly unstoppable. And they could be a team that could really do some damage in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Definitely understand your Tennessee Titans take. The only reason I have the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit ahead of them is because when they played in the regular season, they actually beat them. And we know how good the Steelers' defense is. Last year, they were one of the best defenses in the league. They're still one of the best defenses in the league this year. But the difference between last year and this year is that the Steelers have their quarterback, Big Ben Roethlisberger, back. They've reloaded at wide receiver with Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. James Conner's back, and he's healthy, and they're looking like a well-oiled machine. Adam, they can just win in so many different ways. They can win by outscoring you. They can win by stopping you and turning the ball over. They're coming off of a big win against the Baltimore Ravens this week. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are the team to beat in the AFC. So, let's go over to your Super Bowl picks. Who do you think will be representing the NFC and the AFC in Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay, Florida?
Well, in the AFC, I can't in good conscience pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. I really think they're the team to beat. Like I said, they got better from last year when they were Super Bowl champions, and I think they're going to go back. And then for the NFC, I look at the Seahawks. I look at Russell Wilson. I look at a quarterback matchup that is primed to be one of the best in Super Bowl history if it were to happen. I think the Seahawks defense is, of course, not where they want to be, but that offense could take them to where they want to be.
No one can fault you for that take, obviously. For me, though, I think in the NFC, I have to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, I'm biased, but Tom Brady's been there so many times. I think that he's been a terrific leader this year, and I honestly think, Adam, that he is going to lead that team to Super Bowl 55. He will be the first quarterback to play the Super Bowl on his home field. And then in the AFC, I have to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just think the amount of ways in which they can win. They can win stopping you guys on offense, but they can also outscore you. I think the Kansas City Chiefs can really only win by outscoring you, and of course, they might just do that with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, all the weapons you just talked about. So you heard it here first, folks. Andrew Hanania thinks that it's going to be the Steelers versus the Buccaneers. Adam Reinheimer is going with the Chiefs and the Seahawks. Now let's go into a couple games this weekend first. I think the primary matchup is got to be the Week 1 rematch between the Saints and the Buccaneers. Michael Thomas might be back. Antonio Brown's first game with the Buccaneers. What are you looking forward to in that matchup?
Yeah, well, when Tom Brady joined the Buccaneers, it was really a treat to NFL fans knowing they're going to get to see Drew Brees and Tom Brady twice a year. Early on this season in Week 1, Tom Brady sort of struggled with the Saints, so I'm interested to see how the Saints defense is going to adjust to the addition of Antonio Brown. I think the matchups there, how they choose to guard Evans, how they choose to guard Brown on a limited snap count could decide the whole thing. And then you look at the possibility of Michael Thomas being back. That could be huge for a Saints team that desperately needs him.
Absolutely. The Saints have been sort of, I don't want to say treading water, but I think that they can add a whole another level to their game with Michael Thomas. And obviously Michael Thomas being back would make a huge difference. That's going to be a great game to watch. And then obviously the next game is the Buffalo Bills, another team that's sort of similar to the Tennessee Titans. You know, you wouldn't be totally stunned if they made a run in the playoffs, but at the same time, they're not really near the top of the list. And they're going to your NFC champion, the Seattle Seahawks. What are you looking forward to in that game?
Well, the thing about Buffalo last year was there were some doubts on Josh Allen's accuracy and his passing ability overall. Well, he's going up against a defense that's going to do him some favors. I think Josh Allen's going to have a big day in the air. I think Stephon Diggs is going to have a big day. But you look at Seattle. Buffalo's got Tre'Davious White, who can lock down receivers, but he can't guard both Lockett and Metcalf. One of them is going to go off for a big day. And Russell Wilson, I think, is going to be the X factor giving Seattle the victory.
Absolutely. You said it. Russell Wilson, I think most people's MVP so far this year. DK Metcalf, you talked about how good he is. He's just a freak of nature. He's just this big, huge man and can run so fast. That video of him chasing down Budda Baker to make a tackle against Arizona, he reached 21 miles an hour, for God's sake. And he's a huge man and just built a muscle. So that'll be interesting to see. When we come back, folks, more of The Pulse with Peter B. Thank you for having me. I'm Andrew Hanania.
Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of The Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at The Pulse with Peter B. and make sure you like and follow us on there. We're constantly updating that page with new information. And also on Instagram. For all you grammars out there, make sure you follow us there as well. We're constantly putting these really cool stories, previewing all of our episodes. And if you don't want to DM us through our Instagram or message us through our Facebook, you can always email us. And that's at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. And joining us is Daria DeLucia of At Hoboken Eats. Daria, what's going on today?
I love the way you say my name.
I know, it rolls off the tongue, but remember what Alex Corrado said, DeLucia,
I know.
which is probably the proper way to say it, but you know what, we want to give it a pulse twist.
Because here I am being like, my name's Daria DeLucia from North Jersey.
Well, we know it's not, but she apparently was watching episodes of Jersey Shore Real Housewives before this coming in. I mean, I love it. North Jersey.
I
Anyway.
haven't been in front of a camera in a while.
Oh, come on, stop. I mean, it's like you were never left. Anyway, today we have to move on. We're going to be talking about K Ming, which I believe is the proper pronunciation of this restaurant.
I'm going to say yes.
Or Kemming, right?
Yeah.
Which is located at 1006 Washington Street in Hoboken. Yes. And I tell you, Daria, it's so funny. I stalk your Instagram. I mean, I look at your Instagram page all the time, at Hoboken Eats, and I'm always like, my God, she's always there, I feel like. I mean, and to me, it's just why is it different than just your ordinary Chinese restaurant?
So, in full transparency, I was not super familiar with K Ming before quarantine.
Interesting.
And a lot of the Chinese restaurants closed. And
for sad reasons, right?
Opened up again, but shut down in the very beginning. They were one of the only people open serving Chinese food during quarantine. And so I actually found out about it through one of my friends who was just roaming the streets of Hoboken trying to find Chinese food. And she called me and she's like, oh my God, you're never going to believe it. You got to call this place. We've been calling it Kemming. You got to call Kemming, like it's on Washington Street. And so we called, and it's been a wrap ever since. A wrap ever since.
And if you
the food matches up to it. So I have to say that the food matches up.
It almost reminds me, you have the hole-in-the-wall Chinese places in town, which are great. Like
always
the
go
Green
to those.
Gardens,
Yes.
the number
one.
ones, exactly. And I love them to death. But you walk by Kemming or Kemming, and it's fancy.
It's very fancy.
Right?
Like fingers up when we talk about this. Pinkies up when we talk about this restaurant.
Excuse me. Sorry. I never did that before. Only when I drink my martinis. Anyway. So it's a little fancy.
A little fancy. And what's nice, I think that they really took advantage of their role during quarantine and being that Chinese food that was just helping us all during a tough time. And when we were able to do outdoor dining, they really stepped up to the plate.
They
and
did a little boardwalk, I call it. Yeah.
I love that.
A boardwalk.
They made a boardwalk. They had their, blue checkered tablecloths. Like, they really, really made it a nice time. And, it felt like, again, all these restaurants did such a great job making and decorating their boardwalks. And just to see that, they really, really tried very, very hard, and you walk by them and you don't know, based on how that they've decorated their area, what the food is. It looks like a very nice place. It doesn't look like you're just stopping by to get Chinese takeout.
100%. And I was always confused because I live in that area, about what it actually was. Because the sign to me is not so clear outside.
No.
Now, so let me ask you a question. We spoke about like the great hole-in-the-wall places in town, the Chinese places in town. Can you get food similar to that at K Ming, or do they give it a little bit of a twist?
So it is your straight up Chinese food cuisine. Gotcha. However, what they do differently is they also pride themselves on this, is that they are the only dim sum restaurant. So they serve soup dumplings, like your authentic soup dumplings.
Not like Touch the Heart, which we spoke about
last time.
Which
was super creative on their end. This is super authentic. It comes out in the wooden steam with the lid. So it comes out like it's authentic, and it's delicious. It's very, very good. And honestly, I didn't really think about the fact that we didn't have any really soup dumpling places like that in Hoboken. I just never thought about it.
So you go there?
I go there quite a lot, and
what
I order from there. Okay, so what am I not having? So
what is she not? Off other people's plates as well.
Yeah. I'm like, Matt, what are you getting? Okay, good. I like that. Order that. So General's Chow chicken, 100%. Either the beef and broccoli or the chicken and broccoli.
Okay.
Sesame chicken. And then I'm such a big pork fried rice and vegetable lo mein.
Are you eating for the week?
Have you ever had Chinese leftovers?
So good, yeah.
It's almost better than the second time around.
Guys in the studio are raising their hands here. Am I the only one that doesn't eat them? Like, what's going on?
You order a bulk. Okay. Apparently, people need to hear this. Peter Biancamano. You order
Getting cold on
a
my
lot
own
of
show.
Chinese food so that you always have leftovers the next day because they are the best. And if it snows,
Who's thinking about snow?
okay, I am. If it snows and you don't order Chinese food, do you even live in the Northeast?
You don't even live. She's right. She's right. I mean, but a lot of those guys open up. Okay, fine. Order in bulk. Order in bulk, folks. Order in bulk from these Chinese restaurants. Do they serve alcohol there?
They do not. They're BYO.
BYO. Okay.
Yes,
Not
yes,
bad.
not bad at all. But again, so we ordered a lot during the actual quarantine, and then when quarantine was lifted and you could do outdoor dining, we went there quite a few times, and I don't know, it just felt nice. Like you really feel like you're on we went there, I've only been there with Matt, so it was like date night 100%, and it just was really good.
So
'cause
good dating spot.
Very good dating spot, because
Gotcha.
you're also, like, to me personally, like you're not used to going to a Chinese food, like a small Chinese restaurant for a date night. You know what I
Right.
mean?
No,
Like
I hear
it's not how that's always been portrayed in Hoboken. So it's really, really nice to go and just enjoy some of your favorite Chinese food specialties.
And you said something really interesting to me in a little before, and that was that you found this place during quarantine.
Yeah.
There are a lot of business owners that'll tell you that stayed open during the pandemic. Our friend Joe Sevo down at Shep and Knucklehead will tell you this as well, because he stayed open throughout the whole pandemic. And he said, dude, I got my old customers back. Yeah,
Yep.
he talks to me like that. I got my
He's
old
the
customers
best.
back. He's a great guy. And then I also have these new customers coming back, so business is good. So I think these restaurants that stayed open during the initial stages of COVID, are doing very, very well right now compared to, unfortunately, the other ones that closed
had to
down.
close.
Right or wrong?
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
I would
or-
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
And even just to jump into this shop really quick too, like they came up with that really awesome idea. I know we talked about this a couple of times on the shows with the
right.
lemonade stand. Like it gave people something to be excited about. And
Yeah.
I have to be honest, and I hate to go off of numbers and Instagram likes and stuff like that, but when I posted from Keming, the first time during quarantine, I have never gotten so many DMs on a post and like comments of, are they open? Is this an old photo? Like, when did you have this? And like literally people really, really wanting to know where to get it. Especially for a Chinese takeout, which is normally just how it's done. It's usually like I'm hungover, or it's your Sunday night, I don't feel like cooking, or it's a snow day. Like the fact that this was literally trying to be a good dinner, because we couldn't go out at that point. So many people.
And you could miss the place. I'm telling you.
There's other restaurants around it that I've literally never seen it. I've just never
Amanda's,
noticed it.
I think, is next block,
Yep.
correct? Right next
Yep.
block. And then they have that restaurant, Seven Valleys or something, like also on the next
Yep.
block. I mean, there are restaurants, and I'm telling you, when you're walking by, you're always like wondering what it is. And now Daria told you what it is.
Heard it here first.
Heard it here first on the Pulse. All right, that's really, really cool. So now, let me ask you this. Do they have traditional Chinese restaurant hours?
Yes. So
And they deliver, I'm sure.
They deliver. You can get takeout. They are your traditional Chinese food restaurant.
Gotcha.
But with the dim sum and with the dining in, area.
Aspect a little,
Yep. And they have a lot of room too. And they when we were there was a little flower on our table too. Like it's just nice. It's nice. It's very nice. And you love to see the business owners getting creative. The owner came over and talked to us and was explaining, what went into this and how much, work they put into it and how much it means to have people coming in and dining in.
Well, Daria DeLucia of At Hoboken Eats. So good to see you
Good
again.
to see you
Really
too.
appreciate you. Get the Keming, 1006 Washington Street. And folks, thank you for joining us on this week's Pulse. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.
The Pulse with Peter B. is a proud partner of Eyes on NJ.